I'm not one to usually believe in ghost stories or paranormal encounters. I've always been a skeptic, the kind of person who needs solid evidence before I can believe in anything strange or supernatural. But something happened to me recently that I can't explain. I've been thinking about this every single day, and I can't shake the feeling that something, or someone, is still out there, watching me. It all started when I took a trip to Pine Hollow, a small, desolate town buried deep in the woods. My friend Matt and I were both big into hiking and exploring the wilderness, so when we heard about the place, we figured it was the perfect spot for a weekend getaway. The first day there was fine, nothing unusual. We hiked the trails, admired the views, and took some photos, but everything changed on the second night. It was around midnight. Matt and I were sitting by the campfire, roasting marshmallows, talking about old memories, when we suddenly heard this noise, like a branch snapping. It wasn't just one snap, though, it was a series of them, quick, like someone was moving through the trees, just beyond the glow of the fire. I looked at Matt. He had heard it too, I could tell by the way his eyes darted toward the darkness. We called out, but no one answered. Just the sound of rustling leaves, getting closer. Probably an animal, I said, trying to calm myself down. But my heart, it was pounding in my chest. Something didn't feel right. You know when your instincts scream at you to run? But instead of running, we grabbed our flashlights and aimed them toward the noise. The beam of light cut through the trees, but there was nothing there. We stood there for what felt like hours, listening. The forest had gone completely silent. No wind, no animals, just silence. Suddenly, Matt stood up, scanning the woods with his flashlight. Without saying a word, he just started walking toward the tree line, into the darkness. I tried to stop him. "Where are you going?" I asked, but he didn't respond. He just kept moving, like he was drawn to something deeper in the woods. I didn't want to be alone, so I followed him, but kept some distance, calling his name, asking him to wait. He never answered. We must have walked for 20 minutes, maybe more. My heart was racing. Something felt off, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. And then, Matt's flashlight suddenly went out. One moment it was lighting up the trees ahead, and the next, everything was dark. I called out his name. "Matt." Nothing. I moved forward, but there was no sign of him. I shone my flashlight in every direction, no footprints, no rustling in the leaves, no movement. Just, gone. I stood there for what felt like an eternity, listening for anything, any sound that could tell me where he had gone. But the forest was silent again, unnervingly still. The only thing I could do was run back to camp. I waited by the fire, thinking maybe he'd show up. Hours passed. I kept glancing toward the woods, hoping to see the beam of his flashlight cutting through the trees. But he never came back. At sunrise, I went into town. I told the locals what happened, and I thought they'd help, maybe form a search party, but instead, they just stared at me. One old man shook his head and said quietly, "You shouldn't have followed him into the woods. People who go missing in Pine Hollow, they're never found." I asked him what he meant, but no one would explain. No one wanted to talk about it. Matt's still missing. The police searched the woods for days, but they found nothing, no tracks, no sign of him, nothing. It's like he vanished into thin air. Sometimes, late at night, I hear something outside my window. A sound like footsteps, soft, just at the edge of hearing. And every time I get this awful feeling that it's him, or whatever took him. I'll never go back to Pine Hollow, but sometimes, I wonder. What would have happened if I hadn't followed Matt into the woods that night?